MAGA's desperation to secure the House speakership for Jim Jordan, one of their most prominent cultists, is so palpable and so deranged that they've reportedly sent threatening and creepy text messages to the family members of Republicans who oppose Jordan. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, folks, this isn't exactly surprising. It's actually perfectly commensurate with what the Republican Party has become, particularly the MAGA contingent. We've talked in previous videos how they've publicly threatened public figures, judges, prosecutors, the family members of judges and prosecutors, political figures, President Biden, everybody whom they depict or they perceive to be in opposition to Donald Trump. And in this case, Jim Jordan is Donald Trump's proxy. He's Trump endorsed. He's a Trump loyalist. He tried to help Trump steal the 2020 election, and he's going for the speakership. So in MAGA's calculus, everybody needs to fall in line because getting Jim Jordan the speakership is good for Donald Trump. And yet, as we've discussed, for a variety of good reasons, there are many Republicans who are not sold on the idea of making Jim Jordan the Speaker of the House. And in response, the wife of at least one Republican holdout, Don Bacon, was the recipient of creepy and threatening text messages. I want to play this clip real quick, and then we will look at the text messages together.
It made us mad, and it backfires. You can win us over. Some of the younger folks, maybe that kind of works, but someone like me, Steve Vollmack, Mario Diaz-Balart, you can win us over with an argument that makes sense. You're going to have to convince us, right? And threatening us does not work.
Threatening us does not work. Okay. So here, it was reported by Kyle Griffin of NBC. NBC News confirms before the first defeat, okay, which was on Tuesday, the wife of Republican Representative Don Bacon received anonymous messages warning him to back Jordan's speakership bid or risk being ousted. Okay. The message itself: why is your husband causing chaos by not supporting Jim Jordan? I thought he was a team player. Who is this? Don Bacon's wife said. Oh, now you have nothing to say? Your husband will not hold any political office ever again. What a disappointment and failure he is. He has more courage than you, she says. You won't put your name to your statements. Now, again, I imagine much like the pressure campaign that was being unleashed by Fox propaganda Sean Hannity on Jim Jordan's behalf, this is a really risky gambit. This is riskier still, right? Because people tend to get upset when you involve their family members and their loved ones, right? A direct threat or the direct pressure applied to a particular target, that may or may not be effective, right? Because like that was what Sean Hannity was doing. He was having members of his staff reach out to the staff or directly to a particular congressperson and saying, listen, why aren't you supporting Jim Jordan? Who are you going to back instead? Are you willing to cut a deal with Democrats? Why would this, and this going on? It's a pressure campaign. It's arguably inappropriate. It's certainly Weasley, and Fox would be throwing fits if an MSNBC commentator or contributor did anything like that for Democrats. But that aside, nowhere were family members, as far as we know, being harassed by Sean Hannity or his staff. This is even more deranged. It's an escalation. You're reaching out anonymously to contact the spouses of and family members of, sitting Republican congressmen. It's so deranged. And it may get worse than this. I mean, that's the other thing. There's no limiting principle with the MAGA Republican Party. No matter what you may pretend, you might think, okay, well, that's taking it too far. But is it really? Donald Trump and Trump supporters doxed the identities of Georgia grand jury members involving like the grand jury in his prosecution in Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia. A Trump supporter, after Trump's deranged statements, got busted threatening Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's presiding over the D.C. Court case in which Donald Trump is alleged to have tried to steal the 2020 election from Joe Biden. There have been multiple threats, MAGA-related threats against President Biden. I mean, so threatening and the increasingly escalatory, violent rhetoric, the MAGA movement is a nexus of it. Why on earth would we assume that it couldn't potentially get worse than this? Maybe it won't, but I'd be more surprised if it doesn't than if it did.